You can start, Pallavi.
Yes, Ranga.
Yeah, go ahead. Start.
The Supermind and the Yoga of Works. An integral yoga includes as a vital and indispensable element in its total and ultimate aim the conversion of the whole being into a higher spiritual consciousness and a larger divine existence. Our parts of will and action, our parts of knowledge, our thinking being, our emotional being, our being of life, all our self and nature must seek the divine, enter into the infinite, unite with the eternal. But man's present nature is limited, divided, unequal. It is easiest for him to concentrate in the strongest part of his being and follow a definite line of progress proper to his nature. Only rare individuals have the strength to take a large immediate plunge straight into the sea of the divine infinity. Some, therefore, must choose as a starting point a concentration in thought or contemplation or the mind's one-pointedness to find the eternal reality of self in them. Others can more easily withdraw into the heart to meet there the divine, the eternal. Yet others are predominantly dynamic and active. For these, it is best to center themselves in the will and enlarge their being through works. United with the self and source of all by their surrender of their will into its infinity, guided in their works by the secret divinity within, or surrendered to the Lord of the cosmic action as the master and mover of all their energies of thought, feeling, act, becoming by this enlargement of being selfless and universal, they can reach by works some first fullness of a spiritual status. But the path, whatever its point of starting, must debouch into a vaster dominion. It must proceed in the end through a totality of integrated knowledge, emotion, will of dynamic action, perfection of the being and the entire nature. In the supramental consciousness, on the level of the supramental existence, this integration becomes consummate. Their knowledge, will, emotion, the perfection of the self and the dynamic nature rise each to its absolute of itself and all to their perfect harmony and fusion with each other, to a divine integrality, a divine perfection. For the supermind is a truth consciousness in which the divine reality, fully manifested, no longer works with the instrumentation of the ignorance. A truth of status of being, which is absolute, becomes dynamic in a truth of energy and activity of the being, which is self-existent and perfect. Every movement there is a movement of the self-aware truth of divine being, and every part is in entire harmony with the whole. Even the most limited and finite action is in the truth consciousness, a movement of the eternal and infinite, and partakes of the inherent absoluteness and perfection of the eternal and infinite. An ascent into the supramental truth not only raises our spiritual and essential consciousness to that height, but brings about a descent of this light and truth into all our being and all our parts of nature. All then becomes part of the divine truth, an element and means of supreme union and oneness. This ascent and descent must be therefore an ultimate aim of this yoga.
What a big para, almost 2 pages. So, we'll go through, identify the words and what is referring to as the planes of consciousness. We'll see. The supermind and the yoga of works. So, he is talking about the karma yoga in the integral yoga. An integral yoga, not other yogas. An integral yoga. For himself, he is talking about the system that he has made himself. An integral yoga includes as a vital and indispensable element. The word vital here is not used in the yogic sense. It is used in the sense of important, inevitable in that sense, vital. Because when you use the word vital in ashram, they mean the life element in us, the vital being. But this vital here is, when seen with indispensable, means absolutely necessary. So, and integral yoga includes as a vital and indispensable element in its total and ultimate aim the conversion of the whole being into a higher spiritual consciousness and a larger divine existence. So, very clear, he is saying whole being into a higher spiritual consciousness and a larger divine existence. In the other yogas, traditional yogas, you are not asked to convert your whole being. The body-mind life you don't need to bother about. It's too imperfect to change. But in integral yoga, you have to change the body, vital and mind also. That's what is pointed out. Otherwise, when he says whole being, it includes also the body, the vital parts and the mental parts. Otherwise, the whole being, normally in the other yogas, is only the soul. The soul has to rise to the spiritual planes of consciousness. But here, that's why he says, our yoga starts where the others end. This is not to be interpreted as an arrogant statement at all. It's a statement of fact. Okay? Our parts of will and action. Our parts of will and action. Will is the vital element, and also the will also is really there in the psychic being. And action, the body. Our parts of knowledge, the mind. Our thinking being. Our emotional being, the heart. The higher vital. Higher vital is the emotional being. Our being of life, the lower vital. Okay? Our being of life, the lower vital. There is a lower vital and a higher vital. All our self and nature must seek the divine. See? All our self. The self is your true being, which is always static above your nature. But nature also. All our self and nature, both up and down, must seek the divine. Enter into the infinite. Unite with the eternal. So, he is not using words in an empty manner. Huh? You can enter into the infinite without uniting with the eternal. But you can enter into the spiritual planes of consciousness. If you enter, you are in a wonderful condition, but you are not united with the eternal. United with the eternal, become one with him. Okay? Identification. But man's present nature is limited. Present nature, body, mind, life. Normally. Is limited, divided, unequal. What does the word unequal mean? It is not unaffected by the impacts of the physical world or your own emotions. Okay? Unequal.
Rangada.
Yes.
Rangada, one question.
Yes.
This unite with the eternal comes through self-surrender, or how? I mean, what is the exact difference?
Yeah, it can come.
I mean, you enter you are individual, and when you unite, you become one with the. So
that's right. How does it happen? So how does it happen?
Mostly, I mean, it's through surrender.
Yes, surrender, aspiration. Yeah, that's right. Mainly the aspiration to reach the highest, because everybody doesn't want to unite. Remember, Madhvacharya's philosophy, Dvaita. The Dvaita philosophy, they are not interested in uniting. They are interested only in having a relation with the divine.
Okay.
So, it depends on the individual, whether he wants to do it. Mainly aspiration, strong aspiration. But man's present nature is limited, divided, unequal. Unequal means you are affected by the things coming from outside. And also from inside. If desires come in, you should remain absolutely unaffected. So unequal means you are affected normally. It is easiest for him to concentrate in the strongest part of his being and follow a definite line of progress proper to his nature. Some people are more strong in the mind, some people are more strong in the vital, some people are action oriented. So they have to go to karma yoga. Those who are full of devotion, they have to go to bhakti yoga. Each one is a different path. It is easiest for him to concentrate in the strongest part of the being and follow a definite line of progress proper to his nature, proportional to his nature. Only rare individuals have the strength to take a large, immediate plunge straight into the sea of the divine infinity. In other words, knowledge, devotion, as well as works, everything is offered to the divine. Very rare. Some, therefore, must choose a starting point, a concentration in thought or contemplation. A concentration in thought or contemplation, or the mind's one-pointedness to find the eternal reality of the self in them. So, full of concentration to find out the self. Others, this is the path of Jnana Yoga. You can do it in so many ways. He's saying concentration in thought or contemplation of the mind's one-pointed aspiration to find the eternal reality of the self. Others can more easily withdraw into the heart to meet there the divine, the eternal. Okay, so this is a path of devotion, bhakti yoga. Yet others are predominantly dynamic and active. They are very, very action oriented. So if you are action oriented and you want to do the yoga, then you go to karma yoga automatically. All your works you give to the divine. Note interestingly that you can be very dynamic and active without wanting yoga. In fact, most people are like that. Okay. They are action oriented. They want results in the physical world. But if you are of that nature and you want the yoga, then naturally karma yoga is your best bet. For these, it is best to center themselves in the will and enlarge their being through works. So those who are inclined towards karma yoga, you concentrate on the will and enlarge your being through works. Do the work for the divine and not for yourself. United with the self and source of all by the surrender of their will into its infinity, guided in their works by the secret divinity within, or surrender to the Lord of the cosmic action and the master and mover of all their energies of thought, feeling, act. Thought, mind, feeling, vital, higher vital mainly, and act, body. Becoming by this enlargement of being selfless and universal. They can reach by works or some first fullness of a spiritual status. Note the headline of the chapter, the title. Supermind and the yoga works is concentrating mainly on the karma yoga part. Okay? Then surrender to the Lord of cosmic action. Who is the Lord of cosmic? The cosmic action is done by universal nature, Prakriti. And this is Apara Prakriti, the lower Prakriti. But there is also a Lord in the cosmic action. The Lord is the Purushottama. The Lord is the personal aspect of the divine, and He is also supporting the universal action. Ultimately, He is supporting the universal action. And He is the master and mover of all the energies of thought, feeling, act. Now note when He is saying Lord and master and mover, He is very obviously speaking of the third level, the Purushottama. Okay? One who is infinite, impersonal, as well as personal. Normally when you go to the self, there is no personality. You feel the divine as an impersonal force. Okay? He is consciousness, he is power, he is ananda, but he is not a person. The personal aspect is there only at the third level, or if you are following the bhakti path, you can experience the divine in love. But it will not be universal, it will not be supermental necessarily. Okay? But the path, whatever its point of starting, must debouch into a vaster dominion. So whatever point, however you start, either mind or heart or the will is necessary for Karma Yoga. But the path, whatever its point of departure, must debouch. Debouch is an interesting word, debouche. You open out into, you debauch is the cork in the bottle, and when you take it out, it comes out. So your consciousness also must come out just like that into a vaster dominion. Interesting. Sri always uses interesting images, and it's very interesting to compare his image with what he wants to say. Okay. But the path that we read just now, it must proceed in the end through a totality of integrated knowledge. Integrated knowledge. Not only knowledge of one aspect of the divine. Emotions, will of dynamic action, perfection of the being, and the entire nature. So perfection of the being, spiritual. Entire nature, body, mind, life. Okay? In the supermental consciousness, on the level of the supermental existence, this integration becomes consummate. You cannot integrate fully in the spiritual planes of consciousness. You are in a wonderful condition, but it is not integral. It cannot be. Only if you go to the supermental level can this integration of all knowledge, works and devotion become consummate. Consummate means complete, successful. There, knowledge, will, emotion, the perfection of the self and the dynamic nature rise each to its absolute of itself and all to their perfect harmony and fusion with each other. Knowledge, devotion and works all merge fully in the supermind. To a divine integrality, a divine perfection. Note the word perfection. There can be a perfection at all the levels. Mother speaks of perfection even in the animal world. Okay? So it's a relative thing. But there is a divine perfection. Supermental perfection. For the supermind is a truth consciousness. He is using the word truth consciousness in the sense of supermental, supermind. E cap, C cap. Whenever he uses truth consciousness with T cap and C cap, you know that he is talking about the supermental. Okay? In which the divine reality, fully manifested, no longer works with the instrumentation of the ignorance. Now, what is meant by this? Instrumentation of the ignorance is your body, your vital, and your mind. Okay? And these are the instruments that the divine has to use if the being, if the individual has not gone to the supermind. But if the individual has gone to the supermind, the divine does not use the body, the vital and the mind. He uses directly the soul, which is surrendered to the mind. It does not. So, no longer works with the instrumentation. So how does it work? He will tell you. Okay? No longer works with the instrumentation of the ignorance. A truth of status of being. Truth of status of being. Status of being is the spiritual planes of consciousness. It can be at the lowest level, higher mind. It can be element mind. It can be intuitive mind and over mind. That's the status of being, which is absolute becomes dynamic in a truth of energy and activity of the being, which is self-existent and perfect. Now, what he's saying here is that when you go to the spiritual planes of consciousness, you are not active, you are immutable. You are in a status of being. Status means static. It's only one, there's no movement. But movement and action come when you go to the supermental level. That's what he's saying. Level 3, remember, very important. Level 1, you are in the ignorance. Level 2, you are in the spiritual planes of consciousness, but you are inactive. You have nothing to do with the physical world. Even your body-mind life seems to be somebody else's. You are separated completely from it. So you are not acting in the physical world. Normally, you do. But if you go to the supermental level, the third level, the Purushottama level, okay, then you can become dynamic in the world with the divine consciousness. You can change things in the physical world. You become dynamic. Only at the supermental level, not at the spiritual level. Okay? Partly you may have power, but not the full power to change even the body. Every movement there, what is meant by there? In the supermind. Every movement there is a movement away of the self-aware truth of divine being. Whatever you do, if you are in the supermental consciousness, then it is supermental consciousness that is guiding you fully. Every movement, there is a movement of self-aware truth of being, of divine being, and every part is in entire harmony with the whole. This is interesting because even when you are in the spiritual plane of consciousness, there is no harmony between your vital and your mind, between even your the self and your outer nature, the body mind. There is no harmony. The harmony can come only at the highest level. An ascent into the supermental truth not only raises our spiritual and essential consciousness to that height, but brings about a descent of this light and truth into all our being and all our parts of nature. I'll read that sentence again because he's making a distinction between spiritual and essential. What is meant? An ascent into the supermental truth not only raises our spiritual and essential consciousness to that height, but brings about the descent of this light and truth into all our being. Descent is not possible from the spiritual plane of consciousness. Very difficult to bring down what you have achieved in the spiritual planes and bring it down into your body-mind life. Very difficult. But from the supermind, descent is possible. Descent is fully possible. That is the reason why Srivanga is constantly harping on going up in supermind so that your body-mind life also changes. Now, he has used the word spiritual and essential consciousness. So, spiritual consciousness is at the spiritual level. Higher mind, elemental mind, intuitive mind, lower mind. But essential consciousness could be even beyond that. To that height, the supermental height, but brings about a descent. So, supermental consciousness you enter into and you can bring down what you have experienced there into your waking life. Okay? Into the light and truth of our being and all parts of our nature. The parts of our nature, again, mind, life and body. All then becomes part of the divine truth, an element and means of the supreme union and oneness. This ascent and descent must be therefore an ultimate aim of this yoga. In the other yogas, you are not called upon to go to the supermental level. But in the interior yoga, you have to change your body-mind life also. And that is possible only with the supermind. That's why the ascent and the descent. The others don't talk about this, ascent and descent. Mostly the Jnana Yoga and this is only an ascent. What is meant by ascent? Your soul getting rid of the body-mind life, escapes from the lower and goes into the higher and lives there. This is the ascent. Your body-mind life is here in the physical world. Your soul, your consciousness is mostly stationed outside the body-mind life. That is the ascent. But now what you have experienced there, you have to bring it down into the body-mind life. That's a descent. Okay. Sometimes the descent happens first. And then you want to ascend to that truth. Because many people have experienced suddenly a power descending into you. Suddenly you feel a power. Suddenly you feel you are enveloped in love. All sorts of experiences are possible. So ascent is possible. Temporary ascent. But the descent is possible only when you have ascended permanently into the higher planes of consciousness. Okay. So those words seem to be very simple, but we have to identify each word, then we see how precise it is. So what's the time? 27. We have got plenty of time. We can read the next one. A union with the divine reality. Tarika, would you like to read? Please only.
Yeah, Ranga.
Go ahead, read.
A union with reality of our being, and all being is the one essential object of the yoga. It is necessary to keep this in mind. We must remember that our yoga is not undertaken for the sake of the acquisition of supermind itself, but for the sake of the divine. We seek the supermind not for its own joy and greatness, but to make the union absolute and complete, to feel it, possess it, dynamize it in every possible way of our being. In its highest intensities and largest widenesses, and in every range and turn and nook and recess of our nature. It is a mistake to think, as many are apt to think, that the object of a supramental yoga is to arrive at a mighty magnificence of a supermanhood, a divine power and greatness, the self-fulfillment of a magnified individual personality. This is a false and disastrous conception. Disastrous because it is likely to raise the pride, vanity, and ambition of the Rajasic vital mind in us, and that, if not overpassed and overcome, must lead to spiritual downfall. False because it is an egoistic conception, and the first condition of the supramental change is to get rid of ego. It is most dangerous for the active and dynamic nature of the man of will and works, which can easily be led away by the pursuit of power. Power comes inevitably by the supramental change. It is a necessary condition for a perfect action. But it is the divine Shakti that comes and takes up the nature and the life. The power of the one acting through the spiritual individual. It is not an aggrandizement of the personal force, not the last crowning fulfillment of the separative mental and vital ego. Self-fulfillment is a result of the yoga, but its aim is not the greatness of the individual. The sole aim is a spiritual perfection, a finding of the true self and a union with the divine by putting on the divine consciousness and nature. Sadharmya Mukti.
Yeah.
All the rest is constituent detail and attendant circumstance. Egocentric impulses, ambition, desire of power and greatness, motives of self-assertion are foreign to this greater consciousness and would be an insuperable bar against any possibility of even a distant approach towards the supramental change. One must lose one's little lower self to find the greater self. Union with the divine must be the master motive. Even the discovery of the truth of one's own being and of all being, life in that truth and its greater consciousness, perfection of the nature are only the natural results of that movement. Indispensable conditions of its entire consummation. They are part of the central aim only because they are a necessary development and a major consequence.
This is a big warning to many sadhaks who think that they are doing supramental yoga. It's not that easy. I remember if Amal wrote to Srivdo, I'm doing integral yoga, so I should keep my aim at the supermind. So Srivdo says, no, certainly not. First your aim should be the spiritual plane of consciousness. And then after that you can go to the supermind. Supermind is not an immediate goal. It's a far off goal. So this is what it's a very warning. Okay. So, don't aim too high, otherwise you will fall flat on your on your nose. A union, I'm reading the Paraveda just now. A union with the divine reality of our being and all being. Our being, the individual, and all being means a cosmic consciousness, is the one essential object of the yoga. What is special about this? When you think of the opposite, then you understand Srivdo's, the importance of Srivdo's statement. Okay, literally, it is everybody's. Say all yoga is that. No, it is not. A union with the divine reality. The others don't want a union with the divine reality, not necessarily. You only want a touch of it, or you want to be guided by it, or you want to have a relation with it. So, but here Srivdo is saying union, identification with the divine reality of our being and all being. Not only ourselves, but you must feel your harmony with everybody else, a cosmic consciousness, is the one essential object of the yoga. It is necessary to keep this in mind. We must remember that our yoga, we talk of the integral yoga, is not undertaken for the sake of the acquisition of Supermind itself, but for the sake of the divine. If you want to do it for yourself, then the ego is there, and later on he will explain how that can be a dangerous thing. Okay? So, we must remember that our yoga is not undertaken for the sake of the acquisition of Supermind itself, but for the sake of the divine. We are doing...
But Rangada...
Yes, tell me.
But Rangada, when we say we do it for the divine, there is an ego, right?
In the beginning, certainly it's going to be there. And that's what he's going to talk about also, the instrumental ego. The instrumental ego is a possibility, certainly. But if you have that ego, you cannot go to Supermind. Ego is completely go. So what you're saying is true. There can be, and we do say that. In the beginning it is that, I'm doing it for the divine. But if you look very carefully, you will see you're not doing it for the divine at all. You are doing it for your ego. Okay? Most of our desires and most of it is done for ourselves. So Karma Yoga is not easy at all. But you have to try for it. And the trying, after trying continuously for many lives, then finally you get able to do it. It's difficult. So, but for the sake of the divine. We seek the Supermind not for our own joy and greatness, but to make the union absolute and complete, to feel it, possess it, dynamize it in every possible way of our being, in its highest intensities and largest widenesses, and in every range and turn and look and recess of our nature. So Srivdo is saying, you must be infinite, but you must also apply the yoga in the finite. Okay? Everywhere. Turn, nook and recess is at the lowest level. Every small imperfection in the being must go away. It is a mistake to think, as many are apt to think, that the object of supramental yoga is to arrive at a mighty magnificence of supermanhood, a divine power and greatness, a self-fulfillment of magnified individual personality. Ranga warns against this and he mentions Nietzsche. Nietzsche is the one who certainly had an experience of the self, but he thought that it should be power. And the one who is having power in the self has got the right to lord it over others. But Ranga says certainly not. That's why he calls Nietzsche a blind seer. He has seen the reality, but he is applying it in a wrong way. He is a blind seer. This is what he is talking about, okay? So, not the fulfillment of a magnified individual personality. The individuality becomes universal. When you go, you have a cosmic consciousness. The ego disappears. Your being now is infinite. Everywhere, all over. This is a false and disastrous conception. Now, he has used two words here. One is false and one is disastrous. And the conception. So, he will discuss both these words. This you must know, this is Ranga's style. He has used the words, now he will explain both, why it is false and why it is disastrous. This is a false and disastrous conception. Disastrous because it is likely to raise the pride, vanity, ambition of the Rajasic vital mindedness. And that, if not overpassed and overcome, must lead to spiritual downfall. There you are. What you call Bhrashta Yogi. You have fallen from your high state of consciousness into the normal state again because there was ego. That raises. So, this is why it is disastrous. Okay. And then, he is discussing now false. Why it is false? False because it's an egoistic conception. And the first condition of the supermental change is to get rid of ego. So if you have an ego, you can never go there. Not only that, not only not go there, but you will fall. That's what ego is. It is most dangerous. Now he is discussing the third word. The third word he uses is dangerous. Yeah? Disastrous. Okay. So he is using the disastrous again. Why the danger is there? It is most dangerous for the active and dynamic nature of the man of will and works. One who is action oriented in the physical world is normally trying to satisfy his desires. That's why it becomes most difficult for him to take care of the ego. The most dangerous for that. Power comes inevitably by the supermental change. Now what is the nature of this power? The power to impose your Ashtasiddhis. Okay? First of all, the Anima, Garima, Lagima, Mahima. Okay. Then comes the Prakamyam, Aishwaryam. Okay, you can impose your will on others. You can make him do what you want. All these powers come in. They come automatically because you are reaching to a higher level of consciousness. Power comes inevitably by the supermental change. It is a necessary condition for a perfect action. The others are not interested in action. So for them, they are enough if they go only to the supermental level. The spiritual level. So sometimes the ego is there. Oh, I have gone to a spiritual level, but the divine is working through me. So the individuality, the trace of individuality still remains in the spiritual man. But for the supermental, even that has to go completely. The instrumental ego also has to be disappeared. It is necessary condition for a perfect action. But it is the divine Shakti that comes and takes up the nature and life, the power of the one acting through the spiritual individual. At the spiritual level, supermental level, Individuality has gone. Okay? Some sort of universal individuality is there. It is not an aggrandizement of the personal force, not the last crowning fulfillment of a separative mental vital ego. Self-fulfillment is a result of the yoga, but its aim is not the greatness of the individual. Self-fulfillment. What the body wants, it gets. What the vital wants, it gets. What the mind wants, it gets. What does the body want? It wants good health. It wants conquest of death. That will come. What about the self-fulfillment of the vital? It wants ananda. It wants happiness. It wants possession. It will get all these things, but without the ego. What does the mind want? The mind wants knowledge. It will get the knowledge. Okay? That's a fulfillment. The sole aim is a spiritual perfection, a finding of the true self and union with the divine by putting on the divine consciousness and nature. And there is a footnote which says Sadharma Mukti. Sadharma Mukti is a result of the Karma Yoga. And he is speaking about Karma Yoga only. Even the title, don't forget the title. So, Sadharma Mukti, you put on the nature of the divine. Okay. So that's why it's now 8:40 already. So everybody has to go for their work. So we'll stop here. The last bit we'll finish next time. Okay. And then we'll go to the next one. It must also be kept in mind. Okay, so we stop here today. Next time, it must also be kept in mind. I'll also make a note. Page 281. Okay. Everybody.
Thank you, Ranga.
281.